I think it was really cool at the beginning. I don't remember who said it, but it was said that DAOs are mimicking a lot of stuff that are happening in the real world, even before like DAOs and crypto became a thing. And I've been saying this for a long time, especially when it comes to like nonprofits, in particular membership-based nonprofits. And I think I say that, and people are like, "No, no, DAOs are new. This is different." But I just wanted to just kind of touch on that again and just see like what other things that were happening pre crypto that mimics a lot of the stuff that DAOs are doing now.
Totally.
Yeah,
go for it.
You don't mind that. Like, I grew up in the 90s in Buffalo. It wasn't a great place at the time. But it still had like a little remnants of like the 1960s, like left hippie sort of like innovation that had been happening out of like Buff State, which was like called the Berkeley of the East at the time. And there were all these co-ops in Buffalo, like bookstore co-ops and like grocery store co-ops. And, you know, now I live in New York, and I used to live in this neighborhood called Park Slope, and there's a really famous co-op there called the Park Slope Co-op. And it's amazing because there are all these organizations that exist, and they are kind of DAOs in a weird way, right? Like these food co-ops, for example, you can shop at the co-op for really cheap food, but you have to work at the co-op too, right? So there's these arrangements. And many years ago, I met some artists who were part of this thing called Time Bank, which I regrettably haven't actually bothered to like Google, and I really should because I keep on sharing this as a story, and maybe it's totally not true. But she was part of like a time bank, and there's all these artists and other sort of people where you would show up at somebody's house or whatever, and you would do something for them, and you earn time. But it's not like a token. It was just like this like you had time, and then you could spend your time with other people who are in this sort of like time network, but it's like kind of unofficial. You'd like show up in someone's house and say like, I have 10 hours of time. And that person would be like, okay, well, if you give me your 10 hours of time, I'll give you, some sort of Reiki lesson or bake you a vegan loaf or something like that.
The SEC has to shut this time racket down immediately.
I know, right?
Vegan loaves are very speculative.
Oh wow. My gosh, right? But yeah, there's tons of these. And when you look closer, somehow I think like the 90s and 2000s made us forget around all the kind of different ways. Like there are some cities in America or neighborhoods that still have their own like currency, and it's like just a community thing. I was listening to some podcast maybe like a year ago about this, so maybe someone in the audience knows what I'm talking about. But like local neighborhoods will have their own money, right? And it's like feels like crypto, but it's not crypto because it's just manual money, right? So yeah, Jade, this stuff exists everywhere when you look closely, and that's a big reason why I start to feel like maybe it becomes a lifestyle thing, because a lot of these other communities that people are in that look like early DAOs without technology are lifestyles.
I was going to point to the co-op example as well. Actually, when I started kind of trying to research DAOs more seriously at some point last year, or even I think 2019, I joined the Park Slope Food Coop that Dennison was just referring to as like part of it was explicitly about research. Like I was just like kind of fascinated by the idea. So I joined this grocery co-op and went through the induction process. You have to go. To start, they give you like an hour-long meeting where they kind of introduce you to the co-op, and they tell you certain rules and kind of different things you should know going into it. But I remember the person like opened it up by greeting everybody as comrades when we first walked in, and there was just so many like interesting kind of behaviors within the co-op that kind of have their root in kind of the fact that it's a co-op itself. So for instance, because everyone who works in the grocery store is also a member and doesn't work there full time, there's no one you can really ask like where something is. So you ask the whole grocery store. They have an intercom system that you walk up to, and you ask a question. You're like, "Hey, where are the dried mango slices?" And you announce that to like the 300
Oh my
people that are in
God.
the grocery store in that
It's
moment.
just like a Discord. It's exactly
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. So it's like and then someone will pick up an intercom somewhere else and answer the question. They'll be like, "Oh, it's at the end of aisle 9. Like, check it out, like the bottom shelf." And then, just like Discord, that intercom system starts to get abused. So I remember being, just shopping for groceries there one day, and someone got in the intercom and was just like, "Hey, someone's dog is outside and it is really distressed, and I really think you should go pick up your dog. It's really upsetting to see your dog this upset while it's outside." And never mind, someone picked up the dog, and click. like there was all types of like bizarre behavior there, just all within the kind of like context of this like being a co-op. To be honest, I don't know what like lessons I took away from that, but the idea of like running an org like a grocery store, and there is leadership and a team and so on, but that the members are all owners in the grocery store itself, and then therefore like kind of like share the costs and the profits and just kind of make food more affordable and a better experience. I think is like somewhat instructive and is like the best kind of real world analogy that I can think of, at least right now. And I think what's interesting about DAOs in a crypto context is like I think all the best use cases will have some type of like digitally native use case. So DAOs collecting NFTs, DAOs running protocols, these are kind of like some of the initial areas where you're seeing product market fit. And I suspect like that'll kind of continue within that kind of like digital context in terms of use case.
Yeah, I got to riff on that for just a second because I also joined the co-op. This is amazing.
Oh my God!
Meet at some point. I didn't go through the whole process because they had one requirement, which was everyone in your family household had to work there. You weren't allowed to like be the only person in your.
Oh yeah, I forced my girlfriend to join the co-op. She like didn't want to do it, but I had to like pitch her on it. Give her my reasons why. I had to explain to her how it tied back to crypto. She was just like rolling her eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, my wife was a flat no. But we went to the onboarding, where they're like, welcome comrade. And you're like, okay, is this ever going to be used against me in some sort of like congressional political targeted attack?
There's a Netflix movie about this. I've seen it.
There is something else that's really instructional, I think, for DAOs. And if I remember correctly, and Danny, since you were a full member, you may remember a bit better, but there was a requirement that you show up for a minimum number of board meetings and vote, if I recall correctly, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember that they had said that they required you to participate in some minimum number of governance actions.
That I do not remember that, but I believe that. I'm obviously a bad co-op member, grocery co-op member.
You're a bad co-op member. I remember that like really sticking out to me because it was like I'm the kind of person who will show up for the first time in a place with absolutely no context and immediately have like really pointed questions that makes everyone uncomfortable. And I was just like, I'm going. There's some things I would change around here. I was there like a whole like 5 minutes, and like the cheese section is like the hardest job to get there. I was like, I don't think that I had opinions already. So yeah, I do remember that very specifically. How to be a member. There was like some requirement that you like participate, or maybe you earned some sort of like time off. I remember you couldn't just like drop your shift. You had to like find someone to switch with you.
Oh, that's the most hilarious piece is like, I think people were joining the co-op and then hiring other people to do their shifts for them.
Wow.
And then they had to ban that. So like, someone was like getting their, literally like their butler to go to their shift for them.
I see Aaron Wright. Were you ever compelled to join or interested in joining the Park Slope Food Co-op? Because it turns out seemingly everyone who lives in New York has tried to convince their spouse to join. That's amazing. So maybe co-op culture and DAO culture are already the same. I've been thinking for a long time that it's going to be very exciting when co-ops, like a Venn diagram highly overlapping population with people who are very critical of NFTs right now for sort of not particularly informed environmental opinions, which are interesting, but often just not fully educated. I think those same people, when they discover Split, essentially like on-chain technology letting you organize relationships that either aren't possible or would be extremely expensive to organize through traditional contracts, it's going to be very cool when people start experimenting with this stuff.